As you all know, Swachh Bharat is the dream program of our Prime Minister who inaugurated this very Indian Science Congress. We have several challenges on Swachh Bharat. The objective of course is very impressive, to make sure that the country is clean, and what that means is we need to identify. So there are certain things which have been identified by the Government of India, what needs to be done to make sure the country becomes clean, and the target is within 5 years, that is from the day we started this program in 2014, we want to make sure by 2019 we are in a reasonably good state of situation. There are certain facts and figures which I have compiled. We started this program in 2014, we expect it to be ending it by 2019, and there is a huge fund that has been allocated, something to the tune of 1,96,000 crores. Okay, certain part to be spent in the urban sector, certain part to be spent in the rural sectors, and there are many ministries at the central level, at the state level, and there are various non-governmental actors which are participating in this. Okay, so it's a very ambitious program that we have. Okay, and we expect there are two components. One is the rural part, another is the Grameen part. Okay, the main question that we want to address here is, in this program, are we doing things in scientific way, right? So Swachh Bharat is all about managing waste, and this is all for making sure, okay, this is all to make sure that our life becomes better. The question is, are we using science and technology? Do we understand the science and technology of Clean India? And if we do understand, are we actually implementing it to make sure that the Swachh Bharat program essentially becomes a successful program? Okay. After all, why we are talking about Clean India? We want to make sure that whatever diseases which are related to not keeping clean are prevented. We also make sure that our natural resources and the environment is protected. We make sure that we do as much recycling as possible. At the same time, these things should be very simple and they should be very affordable. Okay, so these are the real challenges that we have to make sure that the Clean India program or Swachh Bharat program becomes successful. Now you see this slide. Every day when we get up in the morning, we make sure we plan for filling up our stomach. Okay, everybody does that. But rarely people think about how are we going to empty our stomach, which is a very important aspect, and if we ignore this, filling up our stomach and keeping us healthy is going to be more and more challenging. And this is why Clean India program is very important. If you want to keep us healthy, we must get good food, and in order to get good food and good water which will keep us healthy, it is important that when we get up in the morning and empty our stomach, how do we do that? And rarely we plan for it. And this Clean India program is essentially all about that, whether we do it in the rural area or we are talking about in the urban area. Okay, and because we have not done that properly, today we face a situation wherein I am not in a position to drink water or take water from any of my water bodies, be it river, be it pond, be it tap water, and we all rely on this bottled water. Why do we want to rely on this bottled water? The main reason is that we somehow feel that whatever I drop from my body comes back into my water which I drink from that. We call it a toilet to tap connection, and this is the thing that we need to make sure that we have. Now so far what we have done is we have somehow tried to bury this somewhere, okay, and we have used science or technologies or methodologies, okay, which somehow keep things under the carpet. Now if you keep it under the carpet, you need a very big carpet, and even if you keep under the carpet, someday that carpet will tear off, or somebody is going to open that carpet and it will come back to you. Okay, and that's the reason we need to worry about it. Okay, and our entire economy will depend upon how we manage our waste. It's very important to do this, and somehow we feel that spending money on the waste or the activity that is absolutely essential for us to do in the morning, we ignore it. We do not plan for it. We feel constructing toilets or making sure that the waste is managed is a wasteful expenditure. Why should I spend on that? But if you don't spend on that, then your other activities become more and more expensive, and your quality lifetime also goes. So it has a huge impact on the economy, and that is where I am sure the Prime Minister realized it, and he is actually sensitizing this, okay, at the national level, and that's a great success that we have achieved. Now, if we do not keep our surfaces properly, eventually it gets mixed up in the water, and through water that kind of waste comes back to us, and that is where we need to have a look at it. We are fighting against open defecation. This is also a question that we need to understand. What is meaning of open defecation? Many people that I ask, okay, even if you provide them a toilet, they say no, we are very comfortable doing it outside. Now we have to understand this psychology, and we really need to integrate that psychology into our new vision that we want to make our country open defecation free. What does that mean, open defecation free mean? Okay. So we have various technological options that we use, be it soak pit, be it septic tank, or we allow the sewage, we construct the toilets in the towns and let our sewage flow into the open drains, and through open drains into the ponds, into the rivers and water bodies, and that it comes back. Okay. And if you want to have solution for that, those solutions are very expensive, because every town has to have a sewer network and then sewage treatment plants. And right now our country's statistics are such that we don't even treat 5% of the sewage, okay, which gets generated into the country. So from where are we going to get those resources? How will we manage money, okay, and so on and so forth. And more importantly, how do we make it sustainable, okay. And I would say, so far the methods that we have adopted, they are very short-sighted methods, and the money that we have spent is almost like if you get a deadly disease and you think that I have an aspirin with me, and with aspirin I will be able to cure that disease. And this is something which is not going to happen, and we have to really have good vision, good understanding, good science behind the Swachh Bharat program, and some of those things that I will like to highlight in very short. Right now what we do is, all our food essentially comes from the soil, and then we eat that food, and where do we send that waste that comes from our body is into the water body, and as a result all our water bodies are completely polluted, and in fact from north to south, east to west, wherever you go, be it any lake, be it any pond, or even the underground water that we talk about is no more potable, is no more drinkable. Is this the situation that we would like to have, or we need to have? Now if I have to reverse this, obviously I need very expensive solutions. I need to create sewer networks, sewage treatment plants and things like that. Is this going to be sustainable? So the mistake that we have done in our urban centers, do we want to repeat that for the rural settings? And as of now, 70 to 80% of our population is still in the rural setting, and only 20-30% we can say is in the urban setting, and we don't want to imply. Even in the urban center, we have given less emphasis, and we always say our resources are limited, but I have to construct a pyramid like this. Okay. Now can we construct a pyramid and starting from the tip and then eventually make the base? And this philosophy is not going to work, and that's why we have not. So right now, even if it is a very challenging thing and we have to spend lot of money, our approach should be that I can only construct the pyramid if I start from the base and not from the tip. Okay. So this is where we have to really think about. When we do this activity in the morning, the God has made this organism, most of the organism, wherein the two streams get separated. Okay, it is we with modern science, so called modern science that we borrowed, or the technologies that we borrowed from the Western culture, is that we end up mixing this and add some 5 liters of water into it. And as a result, neither the water is usable nor the two streams which come out. These two streams, I call it, one stream I call it sugar, another stream I call it as salt, right. Both salt, sugar and water, all the three are important, but when we mix it, it is neither sweet nor salty and the water is not good as well. So we have to really come up with science and technology wherein we make sure that our toilet systems are such that these three things are not mixed right at the source. Particularly for the rural society, this is very important because 80% of our problem of Swachh Bharat, it still lies in the villages. Towns, of course, we have to, and we have to remember that if you are in an advanced stage of disease, right, then the treatment is very different. Obviously, you need Apollos, you need AIMS and things like that. You have to go for high level of treatment. But somebody who is healthy, I would like to propagate a different kind of approach. Better we live with good quality life, do pranayam, do yoga, do exercises and make sure that we don't become unhealthy. So our rural sector is still in that situation. Urban, maybe we still have to look at in a different way. Okay. So this particular approach that we need to talk about. So when we are talking about sanitation, okay, our main problem is we want to do this activity with privacy, with dignity, okay, and with safety. That is why we want to talk about sanitation, and toilet is a solution for that. If you really look at what is toilet, toilet is just an enclosure or something more than that. And so far we are looking at toilet essentially only as an enclosure so that we can do this activity with safety, privacy and dignity. But the more important challenge that we will have in times to come, because if you don't think about what we drop from our body, what happens to that? How are we going to manage that? So the future of sanitation or what we need to do for our country in the Swachh Bharat lies in what gets dropped from our body, what happens to that? Do we allow that to get mixed with water, or we treat it right at the source and use it, recycle it as much as possible? It is with this philosophy we are proposing that waste that gets dropped from body, and when we say body, including our businesses and industries, because industry also drops something, right? It should be separated and treated right at the source. That's the kind of philosophy that we have. And particularly for the rural setting, we want to make sure that this becomes an opportunity rather than a burden for us. It should relate to agriculture sector. So the nutrients that get released from our body, we should be possibly throwing that or sending it into the terrestrial environment, onto the soil in a shortest possible way. Make sure that people are engaged with it so that we create more and more opportunities, employment opportunities. Like any other sector, service sector, this is also a very big service sector, and we should make it, we should not be afraid of it. We should make sure that we do this with dignity and employ or engage as many people as possible into a big sector, and that will generate, and I will give you some numbers how that is going to happen, and then of course we will have the employment generation and environment protection as well. It is in this context we have been working on the different kinds of toilets, right, wherein we make sure that the three things, the toilet is such that the three things that we use for washing and the two streams that gets discharged remain separate right at the toilet level itself, so that our problem is completely of different kind. So this is what we are talking about, the different kind of toilet systems, okay, wherein the toilet pot itself is designed in such a way that the two streams get separated, right. Right now our toilet pots are designed in such a way that the two streams get mixed, and then we add on the top of it water. Then second thing that we also want to have is, once it gets dropped and we wash it, those two things are also separate. So we are designing new kind of toilets wherein this happens, okay, and we have tried this at number of places, and of course installation purpose, it can be mobile, it can be stationary. So depending upon the various kinds of uses, we should go for it, okay. So we tried this at number, including for the Indian Railways. Okay, I am sure you are all aware of the big problem that we have with the Indian Railways. When we go and use the toilet, we are comfortable using the toilet, we are only worried about that enclosure, but don't worry about what gets dropped into this. So the challenge is basically what gets dropped, that needs to be managed, and much more needs to be done for that. So we have done number of things and number of toilets, install this and use this at number of locations, and one of the big thing, we are in the Ganga basin. In Ganga basin we have many big agglomerations for few days where crores of people assemble, right. How do you do their sanitation? So we use this kind of toilets at they can be installed very quickly and use. The main thing is not just this enclosure that you see, the main thing is what gets dropped is separated and processed right at the place where it, so we do not require sewer line or anything of that kind. Okay, so we have done this number of and I am sure our challenge is basically to make the difference in terms of what kind of future toilets that we have, and that is our big problem in Swachh Bharat. Okay. Now, no matter whatever you do technology, what is involved is either you need to spend land, or you need to spend energy, or you need to spend human resources. I think we would like to go for a technology or a model where human beings are involved more and more. Unlike the thing that you have in mind, you want to make sure that nobody gets engaged with it. Only thing that we have to make sure is that the people are engaged in a very dignified way with this process. Ignoring this is not going to solve our problem. So almost, and that is one big thing our Prime Minister has done, he has sensitized everybody about this problem, and once we are sensitized, I am sure we will be able to find solutions to it. Okay. It requires toilet, you know, in your houses, even if you have toilet, it is requires operation and maintenance. If you do not maintain it properly, the toilet does not become usable anymore. Okay. So this, on an average, our estimate is it is going to cost every individual, if you really want to manage, like you, in order to fill up your stomach, you need $100 in your pocket. Similarly, if you want to make sure that the India becomes clean and this problem is solved, we have to make sure that everybody has 10 to 15 rupees every day, okay, on this particular activity, and that amounts to a huge sum. If you are talking about 1.25 billion people, 125 crores people, as our Prime Minister always talks about, 10 rupees per day or 15 rupees per day means we are talking about 1250 crores expenditure per day on this. Okay. But the good part of it is 50 to 60% of that is on human resources, right, and that means we can also think about 640 crores of revenue available for employment. So it can be a big employment sector, provided we make sure we use proper science and technology to engage people in a meaningful way. So it is a very important sector, and we should not ignore this. It is not only Clean India, but it also relates to our economy and how our water bodies, including Ganga, Ganga is our culture. In fact, every river we call it Ganga, right. So it is Ganga, though it is a symbol, we are giving priority. In my opinion, all Indian rivers, and when we talk about rivers, rivers are not without underground water, rivers are not without ponds and lakes, rivers are not without the wetlands that we have. So all of them together is what will bring us clean India, and that is very important for us. Okay. So concluding, I would say that we need inexpensive solutions, but we should not compromise on the quality of it, right. So quality of the solutions is very important. Every cheap solution is not going to deliver us, right. We want cheap solutions, but not compromising on the quality of the solutions that we have, and this is the big challenge that we are facing. There are no easy options. Either we have disciplined life, or we should be ready to use expensive solutions. Okay. So we have to have, and as I said, where we have already messed up, like in urban centers, we have no other options but to use energy extensive solutions. But in rural sector, we can train people in such a way that every village, 1 or 2 households are dependent for their livelihood on this activity. So they don't have to migrate, they can get their employment. Only thing that we have to make is, we have to make this a very respectable, very dignified job, and that means we need to use science and technology in such a way that the people who are engaged in this kind of thing, they feel dignified. Like when a driver is, you have a car and you use the driver, that's considered to be a good job. Why not we consider these also to be good job? Why not we develop appliances? Why not we develop toilets in such a way that this is done in a very dignified way, okay? And we need to make sure that we use these resources which gets dropped. As I said, to me, in scientific way, it is a sugar and a salt, right? So these are the two sugar streams that we discharge, sugar and salt. We should not be throwing it as a waste and mixing it with water, rather use it as a, and it's possible provided we manage the toilets, provided we invent the toilet in such a way that this is possible. And there are many attempts that are going. So I'll stop at this point, and I have two of my colleagues who are also equally experienced in this kind of aspects, and they will like to give their advice on the different kinds of technologies that can be used for the Swachh Bharat. So I will conclude here. At the end, we will have some question answers and discussion. So I would like to invite the first speaker, Dr. Venkateswara Rao. Okay, he is from ISRO. He has worked on various remote sensing technology. As I said, as much as we need technology to achieve things, we also need to do monitoring of this. What is our status on that? And for that, we use various kind of remote sensing technology, and I am sure he will be able to throw some light on what ISRO is doing and what kind of options and why do we need to do such kind of things. So I invite Dr. Venkateswara to give his. Thank you.